The glass doors of the 30-story headquarters slid open with a whisper, and every conversation in the marble lobby seemed to stop at once. A tired man stood just inside the entrance, holding the small hand of a little girl whose backpack was almost bigger than her. His shoes were worn, his jacket carried the dust of a long bus ride, and exhaustion rested heavily across his face like he had been carrying the weight of the world alone for years. Across the polished floor, employees in tailored suits glanced at him with silent judgment, already deciding he did not belong there. Then, from the grand staircase above, the company's CEO looked down at him with cold impatience and uttered the words that would freeze the entire room. Security was called. She ordered him removed immediately. What no one in that building knew was that, within the next hour, the same man she wanted thrown out would leave her speechless, her staff stunned, and her entire future hanging by a thread. Before we continue, if you believe kindness matters more than appearances, and that everyone deserves a second chance, no matter how broken life has made them, please like this video, leave a comment, share this story with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Moments Hub for more emotional and inspiring stories that remind us what truly matters. His name was Daniel Carter, and life had not been gentle with him. 3 years earlier, Daniel had been living what most people would call an ordinary but happy life. He worked as a systems engineer at a growing logistics company, lived in a modest apartment, and spent every free evening with his wife Amelia and their daughter Sophie. Their life was not glamorous, but it was filled with the kind of small joys people often overlook until they are gone. Family dinners, bedtime stories, rushed morning breakfasts, and tired laughter after long work days had once made up the fabric of his happiness. Then everything collapsed. Amelia was diagnosed with an aggressive illness that drained their savings faster than Daniel could earn money. Medical bills stacked up like a cruel tower he could not climb. He sold his car, emptied his savings account, borrowed from friends, and worked double shifts while trying to remain strong for Sophie. But strength has limits, and heartbreak does not negotiate. Amelia passed away on a rainy Tuesday afternoon while Daniel sat beside her hospital bed, holding her hand and promising her he would take care of their daughter no matter what happened. That promise became the center of his existence, but grief was only the first storm. Shortly after Amelia's death, Daniel lost his job when the company downsized. Suddenly, he was a single father with no income, overdue rent notices, and a little girl who still woke up crying for her mother. Every morning became a battle between survival and dignity. He drove for delivery apps when he could borrow a vehicle, repaired computers in his neighborhood for extra cash, and skipped meals so Sophie could eat properly. He became expert at pretending everything was okay. One evening, while searching endlessly through job listings after Sophie had fallen asleep, Daniel came across an opportunity that felt almost impossible. Sterling Dynamics, one of the fastest-growing technology firms in the city, was launching a major digital infrastructure project. The company was known for hiring elite talent, but Daniel's qualifications were strong, and his experience in systems architecture matched the role perfectly. He submitted his application with little hope. Days later, he received a message requesting an in-person document verification for final interview round. It felt like the first real opening life had given him in years. The problem was childcare. Sophie's school had closed early for maintenance. His neighbor who usually helped was unavailable, and Daniel had no family nearby. Missing the appointment could cost him everything. So, with no other option, he dressed Sophie neatly, packed snacks in her small pink backpack, and brought her with him to Sterling Dynamics. That simple decision led him to the marble lobby where judgment arrived before understanding. The CEO, Victoria Langston, was known for discipline, image, and ruthless standards. She had built Sterling Dynamics into a billion-dollar empire before turning 40. Her reputation was legendary, but so was her emotional distance. Employees admired her intelligence and feared her lack of patience. When she saw Daniel standing there with Sophie, she did not see a qualified engineer or a devoted father trying desperately to rebuild his life. She saw disruption. She saw inconvenience. She saw someone who threatened the polished image of her company. Without asking a single question, she instructed security to remove him. Humiliation burned through Daniel like fire. Every eye in the lobby was now on him. Sophie gripped his hand tighter, sensing the tension even if she did not understand it. Her small face tilted upward, confused and frightened. Daniel could have argued. He could have begged. Instead, he did something no one expected. He calmly reached into his worn messenger bag, removed a laptop, and placed it on the reception desk. Earlier that morning, while reviewing his email, Daniel had noticed irregular traffic alerts affecting Sterling Dynamics' public server network. His engineering instincts immediately recognized the warning signs of a possible system vulnerability. During his bus ride to the headquarters, he investigated further through publicly accessible data and realized the company was likely hours away from a catastrophic security breach. Now, standing in front of security guards prepared to escort him out, Daniel opened the laptop and quietly informed the nearest employee that Sterling Dynamics' customer database was dangerously exposed. At first, no one listened. Then a junior IT manager overheard him. Within minutes, panic spread. Daniel's prediction was accurate. An external threat had already penetrated part of the network, and the company's cybersecurity team was scrambling to contain it. What should have been an ordinary morning transformed into controlled chaos. Executives rushed through hallways. IT specialists crowded around monitors. Phones rang endlessly. Victoria, who moments earlier had dismissed Daniel as an inconvenience, now watched in disbelief as her own team verified his findings. The same man she ordered removed had identified a flaw her highly paid experts had missed. For a long moment, the lobby fell silent in a completely different way. Daniel did not smirk. He did not seek revenge or validation. He simply asked if there was somewhere Sophie could sit comfortably while he explained the issue. That was the moment everything shifted. Victoria escorted Daniel personally to a private conference room. As Sophie sat coloring quietly with office stationery someone rushed to bring her, Daniel walked the cybersecurity team through the vulnerability, identified the breach path, and proposed a containment solution with calm precision. Years of experience returned to him like muscle memory. For the first time in a long while, he looked less like a struggling father and more like the exceptional engineer he had always been. Within 2 hours, the crisis was contained. A disaster that could have cost Sterling Dynamics millions and destroyed customer trust had been prevented. Victoria remained unusually quiet. She was not used to being wrong, especially not so publicly. But something deeper than professional embarrassment was unfolding inside her. Watching Daniel periodically glance at Sophie to ensure she was okay, noticing the exhaustion in his face, the care in his movements, and the dignity with which he carried humiliation, Victoria began to confront something uncomfortable within herself. She had spent so many years climbing that she had forgotten how easy it is to look at people and see only their packaging. She had mistaken struggle for incompetence. She had mistaken parenthood for distraction. She had mistaken humility for weakness. Later that afternoon, after the emergency had passed, Victoria asked Daniel to stay, not for an apology speech filled with corporate politeness, but for honesty. Daniel shared pieces of his story with simple restraint. He spoke about Amelia, the hospital bills, job loss, sleepless nights, and the constant fear of failing his daughter. He did not dramatize his suffering. That made it even more powerful. Victoria listened in silence. For reasons she could not fully explain, Daniel's story unsettled her more than any boardroom crisis ever had. She had built her life around control, perfection, and performance. Somewhere along the way, empathy had become collateral damage. By evening, she offered Daniel not just the role he had applied for, but a senior cybersecurity leadership position with full benefits, flexible hours, and emergency childcare support. Daniel stared at the offer letter as though it might disappear. For the first time in years, the crushing pressure on his chest loosened. He accepted. Weeks turned into months. Daniel transformed Sterling Dynamics' digital security systems and became one of its most respected leaders. But his real impact stretched far beyond code and infrastructure. He changed company culture. His experience as a single father inspired new workplace policies supporting parents, caregivers, and employees facing personal hardship. Flexible scheduling programs expanded. Emergency family leave improved. A childcare partnership was launched. The company became stronger not just technically, but humanly. Victoria changed, too, not overnight and not magically, but visibly. She became more attentive, less reactive, and more willing to ask questions before making judgments. She learned that leadership was not only about protecting standards, but about recognizing unseen battles. One afternoon, months later, Victoria walked through the lobby and noticed a nervous young applicant arrive with an elderly mother in a wheelchair. This time, instead of judgment, she walked over herself and helped. That lobby had become a different place. So had she. Daniel often thought back to the morning he nearly lost his chance because of appearances. He realized life can change in a single hour, but character is revealed in those exact moments when humiliation, pain, and opportunity collide. He had every reason to respond with bitterness. Instead, he responded with value. That decision changed everything. Before the ending, I want to ask you something special. Please comment below. What matters more in a person, appearance, or character? Years later, Sophie would barely remember the fear of that morning. What she remembered instead was seeing her father stand tall when the world tried to make him feel small. She remembered that dignity does not come from expensive clothes or polished offices, but from resilience, kindness, and refusing to let hardship define your worth. And maybe that is the quiet truth this story leaves behind. Sometimes the people the world is quickest to dismiss are carrying the exact strength, wisdom, and courage needed to change everything around them.